Hi guys, Adam again from Midwest Panel Builders, and I'm once again in 915 Mike Whiskey doing calibrations. And the next series of calibrations that we're going to be doing is our fuel tanks. This aircraft has two main tanks that we have to calibrate, and it has a float style sensor that's resistive. Some customers are choosing to do the size fuel sensors, which are digital. The process is the same, they're also floats, but your configuration looks a little different in the screen when you're doing that. Couple things I want to touch on before we get into the actual calibration procedure is I want to talk about how we do this and some of the things to watch out for, some of the caveats, at least as it applies to the TSI, but I've seen this on other airplanes too. So the first thing to address is that float type sensors have a finite amount of movement to them, and particularly on low-wing aircraft where you have a dihedral in the wing, that becomes a problem because the float's going to top out against the top of the tank before it's actually full. So if you can imagine this is your wing and your float's down here, it's going to hit the top of the tank, but you've still got all this room for fuel to go in. So you're not going to read your entire tank worth of fuel level. In the case of the Sling TSI, there is a bottom edge of where the sensor will read as well, and that's roughly 2 to 2.5 gallons. So at the very least, if the float will read at 0, at the very least you want to fill the tank with the unusable fuel. But in the case of the TSI, we actually filled these tanks to 2.5 gallons each to reach the bottom end of where the float travels. So when the float reads empty, there's still going to be 2.5 gallons left. The float on these tanks tops out at roughly 14. So that means that the only actual readable range of these fuel level sensors in this aircraft is going to be about 11.5 gallons. So we're going to calibrate for that in the system, and we'll show you how we do that. Like I said, a lot of low wings are going to have this situation. Not all, but most of them will, just because of how they're designed. So now let's talk about the actual procedure of doing the calibration. So we talked about setting your start point. Now, how do you actually do it in the system? The G3X will generate a curve for you based on the number of points that you fill to and tell the G3X what that point is. So what we like to do is 2-gallon increments, and we will tell the G3X, okay, there's 2 gallons now, and then hit store. And then we'll go to the next one, which will be 4 gallons. And then once we stabilize, we'll hit store on that. And we keep making our way up to the very top of the range of the sensor. The benefit to that is if you have odd shape in tanks, like kind of a V conical shape, you're going to have a lot of movement for the first part of it, and then you're going to have a lot less movement as you get higher up in the range. So the G3X works with that because you're telling it what those different points are. Another thing to be careful of is a lot of aircraft like the TSI have baffling in the tanks to prevent sloshing from preventing pickup of fuel. If your aircraft is like that, when you fill your increments in the tank, you have to wait for that sensor to stabilize. On the TSI, it actually helps to lift the wing a little bit and shake it. Also, if you tap on the bottom of the tank, it prevents any sticking of the sensor from becoming an issue. But you really have to be certain that whatever that sensor value is totally accurate, because it can totally mess up your calibration and you have to drain the tank and start all over again, and that's not a fun process. All right, we're back in the airplane, we're back in config mode, and now we're going to talk about the calibration procedure as it is on the screen. One other thing I wanted to point out really quick though is, and it requires me being in here to show you this, but again, we're going to go to engine and airframe, and now you've got, in our case anyways, fuel 1 and fuel 2. So I'll click on fuel 1. When you go to calibrate, you're going to notice that there's a flight and a ground option on here. In the case of the TSI, it's basically the same because its ground attitude is pretty similar to its flight attitude. But if you're in like a tail dragger, you need to calibrate the tail dragger at flight attitude, which the good time to do that would be when you calibrate the AHRS. And then you're going to want to, unfortunately, drain the fuel tanks and then do it again when it's sitting on the ground on the tail. If you have other aircraft like some... we'll get into the certified world. Some of the Cessnas, their ground attitude and their flight attitude are very different, and then you have to calibrate them separately in that case. But bear that in mind as you're going through this. Again, in the TSI in particular, it's going to be basically the same because our attitude on the ground and at cruise is almost identical. So this is the screen I was talking about where you're going to put in your different calibration points. I'll actually go ahead and put 0 gallons in now and store it because that's where we're starting at. Again, you're going to fill a certain increment and then come over here, type in whatever that increment is, and then store that calibration point when that value stabilizes. In the slings, the voltage never goes above 1.2-ish volts. If you have voltage-based sensors, a lot of them are 0 to 5 volts. And if you have a size field sensor, that's a frequency, so that's going to be kilohertz. It's going to be a little bit different. But the idea is the same. The sensor needs to stabilize before you move to the next point. Otherwise, it'll totally mess up your calibration. Okay, so we just got our first 2 gallons poured into the wing. You can see that the voltage has moved a little bit. We were at 1.059, now we're at 0.957. They're going to go ahead and rock the wing a little bit and tap on the bottom of the tank, and then we're just going to wait for that to stabilize, which it already is now, but I just want to make sure that that's the real number. So you can see after a little bit of massaging of the wing, there's still some movement in the sensor, and that's what I was talking about earlier, where you need to make absolutely sure that that sensor is in the right place. So we stabilized at about 0.87 volts for 2 gallons, so I hit store. Now we're going to move up to our next point of 4 gallons, and we're just going to keep going through until we reach the top end, which is going to be about 12 gallons in this case. All right, so we've completed the calibration of the left tank. Now we're going to go ahead and apply the entirely same procedure over to the right tank, and then that'll be it for fuel calibration. So again, the key points to think about are the fact that A, the fuel sensor, the float may not have the entire range of motion for the amount of fluid that the tank can hold, so bear that in mind as you're doing the calibration. Additionally, make sure that if you have baffles in your tank, that you're getting the fuel past the baffles and into the actual sensor area before you hit the calibrate button on that point. And then if you follow at least those 2, you should have a successful calibration every time. Thanks again for watching. The next thing that we're going to do is actually go ahead and do our first engine start, and then after that we will do the magnetometer calibration, so stay tuned for that one.